Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
I'm Cindy Baldwin.
I'm Beth Ellicott.
I'm Jennifer Copaz-Rose.
And you're listening to Fiber Talk, the twice-weekly podcast for needlework artists. All right, this is dangerous. I'm going to hit the mute button. The women are taking over this week. I'm out. The women are going to do the show, and, they got a list of topics. So have at it, ladies. I'm out. I'll just sit here and listen. Have a good time.
Thanks, Gary. Well, Jennifer, you sent this topic in, and it really got me interested because I'm spending a lot of time either standing over my sink, canning. I'm either standing and canning or sitting, and we're moving into that season of time where stitchers tend to get more time for stitching. And you mentioned something about stretches for your upper body.
I tend to get headaches, or I get headachy, and I'm always on the lookout for my neck muscles and my shoulder muscles always get tight. And so I'm always on the lookout for what stretches or even exercises can I do, because if you need to strengthen the muscles so that other ones aren't taking over the job of weak muscles. So I was look out for that, and stuff always pops up in my YouTube because, like recommendations, because I'm always looking for stuff. And there's this girl, Susie Baxter, Whole Body Revolution is her YouTube channel. And she had this playlist of 8 videos for stretches for your upper body. And it was, the playlist is entitled something about shoulder tension. And I went through and did, first she explains, which is really cool. The first video, she explains the anatomy of your shoulder and your arm and what muscles go where and how it all hooks together, and how some of the muscles in your back are actually shoulder muscles. Mm-hmm. And so I watched that, and then I went through and did her different exercises. And then one girl she had on her video, it wasn't Suki, but it was this other girl, and it's in the playlist, and she had these different kind of sort of yoga-y type stretches and exercises. And oh my gosh, so I did all the things and all the videos. I just went right through, and they're short. It took like half an hour, and man, my whole shoulder and neck area felt more open, and it felt so much better. And I was like, this needs to be shared with the stitching people, because sitting and hunching forward, your arms are forward, that's it's going to cause you a hump in your neck and your back, and we need to loosen it up and strengthen.
So how often do you get up, do you think, and stretch? Because you do get a lot of stitching time. Do you set a timer on your your watch or someplace, or just no? It's like, okay, I've sat here long enough.
I just kind of feel it. It varies. Sometimes if I'm really into it, I'll go 2 or 3 hours and not move, which I know is bad, but that's what I do. And then sometimes, the animals are like, we want to go out. We want to be fed. We need this. So sometimes I'm getting up like every 10 minutes for something. But I sit down and I stitch like just a few, and then I'm up. And then I sit down and I get a few, and then I'm up. So it just depends.
So I used to have the same problem. Well, I guess I still do when I'm stitching. But when I was working, I would, be at my desk for 4 hours without getting up. And I got myself a timer and set it for 60 minutes so that I would, it would just kind of shake me out of my concentration, if nothing else, if I'd get up and just move around a little bit, or get up and, go get something to drink or use the restroom or whatever, just a little bit to move around. Right. And going along with your posture is vision. Mm-hmm. Staring at a piece of needlework for an extended period of time is just like looking at a screen. Yeah. You're focusing at a short distance, and you're not relaxing your eyes. So, stopping every, so often to look out a window, or, just refocus your eyes someplace else.
Or look up to the TV.
Think would help. Yeah, look at the TV, or just move your eyes around a little bit. As we get older, our eye muscles don't work as well as they used to. Our iris doesn't open and close as fast as it used to, and that's going to affect our vision. So
right. And I've noticed that I've noticed that when I've been stitching on Spring Hill a lot, and it's my smallest count piece. It's 45 count, and I tend to get really close to it. You know, my posture's terrible, and I'm looking at it a long time, and it's at night because that's when I generally do most of my stitching. And I'm like, okay, these topics are so timely for me because I'm like, okay, I need to take, set a little timer, maybe every 15 minutes, which would annoy my husband to have it beeping on my watch, but but get up and just, close my eyes and open them, move around a little bit, and even do some stretches. Go ahead.
Yeah. Also, how close you hold your needlework to your face. You have to pay attention to the set of your shoulders. Try to keep your arms at, I know a 90-degree angle is kind of low, but if you can stitch down there, but don't bring it right up to like 2 or 3 inches from your nose, because that also increases the tension and the hunching of your shoulders up to your ears. You've got to try to be ergonomic and keep your shoulders down and back. Keep it as low as you can, and maybe change I change my glasses. I do, if I'm doing up close stuff, I do my 3s, but I still hold it as far away as I can, so I'm not hunching over and squinting, and you get tensed up,
Right. And I can tell when I'm getting tired, because if I've been stitching for a while, I'm like, okay, I can no longer see the holes, and so I'm looking for a stronger magnification of glasses.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe it's time to move, get up and move, and maybe move to a different project for the evening too, just because it's hard.
One of the people in our guild took her needlework to her eye doctor, and he wrote a prescription for her that has magnification in the lower part for the distance that she works at. For some reason, other kinds of magnifiers don't work for her. She just can't, I don't know, get them adjusted right or whatever. But this has worked really great for her. She just has a pair of stitching glasses, and it's like a bifocal, so she can look through the top and see the TV or whatever. But the bottom is just the right magnification for her to work at a comfortable for her distance.
Right. And taking into account your posture and I also like your chair. You know how I have a comfy chair, and after a while the cushion gets squashed down. So you have to flip and rotate your cushion. So the firmer side, and like I have a chair and a half, so I don't sit on the entire cushion. I sit on part of it. So I flip and rotate my cushion, and all of a sudden you're boosted up and you're sitting better and your lower back is in a better position. So
right.
I do that too.
Okay. So what kind of chair are you using? Is it just a normal?
It's like a sofa, one of those chair and a half. It's like it matches your sofa. It's like an extra large chair. It's one of those. But then I also have in my sewing room, like right now I'm in my sewing room. I'm sitting on a kitchen chair with a cushion on it, and I'm sitting up straight. I don't hunch over. Even at my sewing machine, I don't hunch over. I sit straight with my back straight. And you have to engage your stomach muscles and your back muscles. And
yeah, it's hard to do.
But it helps. It really helps, and it helps. And, I exercise also regularly, which strengthens those muscles, which makes sitting like this easier.
Right. Absolutely.
So if you're looking for furniture for your living room, Beth, let me suggest that you look at the stressless recliners. That's what I have. I stitch in my living room. And the stressless recliners, some of them have the footrest built in, but most of them have a footrest that's separate. And I don't use the footrest when I'm stitching. I have my needlework on a stand, or I don't very often work in hand. Most of the time I'm using a stand and a magnifying lamp, and I just have it all set up so that I can sit comfortably. My feet are on the floor. I do put a cushion behind my back so that I'm not leaning forward. So I can sit comfortably in this chair for hours and stitch. And as long as everything's adjusted just right.
Yeah.
then
It also helps if you're short. Like I have a little footstool, like right now that I'm sitting, because I'm short. So if my legs are kind of, you're sitting and the angle of your knees is more than 90 degrees, it puts pressure on your lower back, and which puts pressure on your shoulders and your neck, and it gives you tension headaches. And so if you're short and stuff, you need a footstool to go under your feet so that you don't have lower back problems and,
Right.
And the other suggestion I have is a good massage therapist.
Oh, yes. I get massage every 2 weeks. I go
do
to
too.
Massage Envy, and I am religious. It's been 10, 12 years. I go every 2 weeks.
Yep.
Religiously.
Yeah, that's the one thing I finally talked to my husband. I said, oh, the chiropractor will add a 15-minute massage, and it doesn't cost that much to add it on to our chiropractic visit. It's like, oh, are you sure? And I'm like, let's try it a couple of times and see how you like it. Oh my word. He's like, oh, we are getting a massage this time, right? I'm like, oh yeah, we're getting a massage this time. Yeah, it's just a short one, but you're right. Doing
my
those
husband,
things for you, doing those things for yourself, it does improve your quality of life for the things we love to do, like stitching.
Right.
Stitching.
Absolutely. And also, like, if you get eye fatigue, get a like a washcloth and put some hot, because the heat will go away quickly. So get some hot water and squeeze it out and just lay it over your eyes, and it helps release all those muscles in your eyes and your forehead, and it feels so much better. I do that too. I'm always on the lookout for something to relieve my eye strain or my headachiness.
Right.
It's like a constant.
Yes, I agree.
So I'm looking forward to looking at those YouTube videos. I assume Gary will put the link that you sent in the show notes so everybody else can look at them too.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yep. They were fantastic. I was like, oh, this is nice.
All right. And this kind of goes with it, but so you get up and move around. I know Jennifer moves from station to station in her house, so it cracks me up. But so how's your whip rotation going? Do you keep the different whips in different areas? Is that how you're running that, Jennifer?
Me? Yeah. I do. Like, I have different things I do in different places. I have a couple of things that I work at in the living room, or I'll just move the project with me.
Okay.
If I feel like I want to sit somewhere else, then I just bring it with. Or, I even switch hobbies. I'm sewing up some quilting blocks that I've been working on forever in a day. So I've been at my sewing machine doing some sewing lately. And then with the sewing, you have to iron in between. So I'm sitting at the machine, then I have to get up and iron. And then I sit at the machine, and then I get up and iron. And yeah, it's just right next to me, but I'm still standing and sitting and standing and sitting. So I'm moving.
Right.
Right.
So is this part of your whip rotation, though, to have different projects in different rooms? Or
no,
because I know you're doing. So how's your whip going then?
It's going well. I was working on that cottage of the month for the last part of October, and I got like 5 or so days in, and then I got this last weekend, I was headachy-ish, and I just didn't want to work on it. And so that's when I switched to the sewing, because it wasn't so eye intensive. I could still do something, but I wasn't using my eyes so intensely and looking at a chart and, so I kind of failed a little on that one, but it's going well. I mean, I have been keeping up with it every month, and I love it. And I'm doing it again next year.
The other thing we didn't talk about for workstations is lighting, because that's going to affect your eyes too.
Absolutely.
And how many people have you talked to that said, oh, I used to cross stitch, but I quit because I couldn't see it anymore?
Yeah, you have to up your lighting.
Absolutely. Regular living room or bedroom lighting is not adequate.
When I was in my 20s,
stitching.
Yeah, when I was in my 20s, I could stitch with
anywhere.
just my normal lamp light, which wasn't even bright back then. It was just a normal warm, and I could stitch for hours. And now
Yeah.
forget it. There's no way.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Good light directed at what you're working on, not the whole room bright, but focused light.
I do have ambient light too. Like I don't like sitting in the dark.
Yeah, I
So
don't
I've
either.
got the lights on in the house. So but they're all LED. They all have really low wattage. So.
Right. But you're right. Actually, I will pull out once actually the holidays are over. My kids go back to school and my house is back to normal. I'm going to pull out my white work project because the light is really good in the winter where I sit and stitch. So even though it might be cloudy or something, I have a big bay window behind me, and having that extra ambient light along with my other lights makes that so much easier for me to see to stitch, because the white on white is a little bit more difficult, and it's and because it's something I'm not proficient at, it causes a little tension. So I do have to remind myself, okay, this, relax, get up, move around, stretch. But you're right, Cindy. We need to have, the lighting is so important, and I just turn them all on around me. Just have all the lights on.
I do that in the winter. It's like I have to turn on more than I do in the summer because I don't like sitting in the dark, and it strains my eyes more.
Right.
Yeah, I have a Dazor lamp, and I've had one for years and years and years and years. And I like it because I can adjust it to where I need it to be. I can look through the magnifier. The light is built in. It's not an LED light. It's a compact fluorescent light. But the Dazors are expensive lamps.
Right.
But they last.
Yeah, I put LED, the really super bright LED lights, in just my normal lamp, because I discovered that I have one of the OT lights, but the light bulby thingy gets hot and it makes my head hot. And if my head starts getting hot, it starts making me get headachy because it's over my shoulder. It's not right. It's like kind of up by my head, and it makes my head hot.
Right. So I have my lamp
much
out in front of me, so I'm I can move it's not over my shoulder or even off to the side. It's kind of in the front, off to the side. It's not in the way when I'm moving around.
My setups don't allow that. If they did, I would, but
yeah, and that's the hard thing. You have to do whatever your room allows you to do.
Right. Yes.
Right. I don't know. I wanted to put the lamp. We bought a lamp for our living room, and I told my husband, the best place for it would be like right in the middle over my stitching. I don't know why. I blocked his view for the TV, and he was not. He wasn't interested in that. So we moved it behind me. It's like, okay, well, I guess that'll work. But that was kind of, I said, this would work the best. And he was like, yeah, get over it, woman. Put it behind you.
Oh my gosh, those hubbies and their demands, I'll tell you what, they just need to get over it.
Well, I couldn't blame it. It was kind of blocking the TV.
I know. It's funny.
Yeah.
I know, we do what we can, and we try to take others into consideration, but we're like, you're here for 10 minutes a day. I'm here all day, so
right, deal with it.
Have to live with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's too
So
funny.
how about you, Beth? How are you dealing with your whips?
My whips. Oh, I've been looking around at them, and I'm like, are there any that I can finish before the end of the year? And I did some quick math on Spring Hill, and to get it done, I'd have to do 300 stitches every day, starting the 1st of November until the end of the year to get it done. And I realized
that's about 3 hours a day, right?
Yeah, and that's just not going to happen because you've got Thanksgiving and Christmas there.
Yeah.
And my college students coming home, and you just know you're just not going to have that kind of time. So I'm like, all right, so I'm looking around again. Is there anything? But I hate to put Spring Hill away because I'm enjoying it so much. So I'm just not sure. I think but it's big, so it will get put away when Christmas decorations come up because it takes up too much floor space in my living room, which is where I stitch. So Yeah, that's going to be a next year finish. I can already tell. So, which is too bad.
Yeah, mine too, probably, unless I get inspired. But I've got some of my whip goes coming up are Christmassy-ish, and I'll probably work on them more than the whip go says. So I'll probably just kind of take over.
So, Cindy, do you have a rotation, or you just work on whatever you feel like working on?
I work on whatever I feel like working on, and I am more inclined to work on something until I get it done than switch around. I really don't get bored with projects, but so right now I have a needlepoint project. I'm taking a class with Debbie Rowley, a cross stitch project, and a couple of other little needlepoint projects that are kind of the carry around projects. And right now I'm working on the Debbie Rowley piece, and I really kind of hate to take it off. I need to be working on the cross stitch piece, but I'm really making progress on the Debbie Rowley. It's Fantasia. It's the virtual ANG class that she's teaching, and I'm really enjoying it, and I really want to work on it until I get it done. So I might just do that and go back to the cross stitch piece when the Debbie. Part of the problem is that I'm using my floor frame for both of them. They're both fairly large pieces. So if I switch them out, then I have to change the floor frame to use scroll rods versus the stretcher bars, and it's just easier to stick with one project.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think that's why I stick with Spring Hill, because it's set up that way. It's there, it's out. So I'm like, oh, I have a few minutes. I can put in 10 stitches, or whatever. So that makes it nice. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to switch to something else that is higher priority, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's one thing I like about my whip go is I only have to do an hour a day for 7 days. That's my goal that I set for myself. Everybody sets their own goals. That way, if I'm not really I really want to work on something else, just get a little bit in on the one and then switch and put it away and work on what your heart desires for the day,
Right.
Oh, I see.
Sometimes you get going on something and you're just like, if you're on a roll, don't stop.
Right.
Right.
It's fun. You're enjoying it. It's looking great. You want to see what the next little part is going to look like, and
Yes. Right.
Yeah, and on these Debbie Rowley projects, and I've got more than one going. I'm taking 3 classes with her right now.
Oh.
My goodness.
Yeah. But I haven't started the other 2 because I've got Fantasia going. I forgot what I was going to say. I lost
whips.
it. Yeah, whips. I don't know.
So, okay, then let me ask you guys, what draws you to a design? Then you're obviously loving Cindy. Why do you like Debbie Rowley's things so much?
I love geometrics. I have an awful lot of her patterns, and I've done a couple of them. One of the things that I've really found interesting is when she and Gary were talking the last time she was on, we were talking about her mermaid project, and that she's teaching for EGA next year, which was like that total departure for her. But what she kind of emphasized was the educational purpose behind that, which was compensating.
Right.
So I started paying a little bit more attention to what her purpose behind these classes that I'm taking is, and so I'm doing Fantasia, Fandango, and mostly crescents. And with all of these, it's focusing on a particular stitch and working on variations of it to get comfortable with, changing the stitch and, how you can do variations of it to achieve a desired look. So I've never paid that much attention to what the teacher's educational purpose was in the past. If I liked the project, I did it. I've taken a lot of classes because I wanted to learn the technique. And I'm kind of past that at this point. I think I've taken a class for most of the techniques I want to learn. I've tried just about everything except stump work.
You and me.
So I kind of know what I like to do, and if I like the pattern, the design, then I'm likely to take the class without really worrying about what I might learn from it.
Right.
But I usually do learn something, and that's something that a lot of people don't want to take a class that might be called a beginner class because it's a beginner and they don't think they're beginners, which is fine. But I almost always learn something, or I'm reminded of something that I knew at one point in time and I forgot about it. And
Right.
the teacher or somebody in the class says, "Oh yeah, this or this," and oh yeah, okay, that's something I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I find that I always get something of value out of these classes.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
I mean, you can always learn some sort of tip and trick from somebody.
Yeah.
Or be, like you said, be reminded of something that you knew and you forgot. And you're like, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't taken a lot of classes, but when I do look at stuff, if I'm, thinking, I don't care what level it is, really, unless it's something that's really advanced and I've never done it. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could, but I can usually pretty much do okay. I don't know why you wouldn't take a class just because it says beginner because you think you're advanced. I mean, that's
right.
I don't know. That's a little silly.
Right.
Well, I think so too, but there are people that are like that.
I guess, but
and I feel like because our guild does occasionally get national level teachers in, and I'm like, so take a class because I've never taken it from that designer or from that teacher. I'm going to learn something. If I learn, okay, I really don't like this teacher, you learn something.
Right.
But most of the time you learn so much, just even if it's a technique that maybe you're not in love with, you learn something from teachers and from physically being in class with other people. I do miss that with the pandemic going on. We haven't had classes in person for a long time, and you learn so much from physically being together and saying, oh, you're holding that different than I normally hold mine. Why are you holding your needle and thread that way? And you're like, oh, because I get better tension when I'm always looking for a better way to get my tension better because I just have a hard time with that. But yeah, I miss that.
So what draws you to a design, Beth?
Oh, color. Generally color. I know that's what drew me to Spring Hill. I've got a painted canvas piece that's all these bright colors. It's color. And my kids always laugh because I'm always doing geometrics. And, you're talking about Debbie Rowley. I'm like, oh, I have some stuff in the basement that probably could be pulled out. And I'm like, no new projects. No more new projects. No starting anything new. But I'm also called to designers. When Gayanne Rogers put her pieces out, I want to see what new designs she's come up with, because her designs hit so many levels for me. Yeah, she generally does them on Congress cloth or 18 count canvas, but she does include surface embroidery. She does include silk ribbon embroidery. There's those, so you're not just doing one single technique on her piece. A lot of times you're doing multiple and you're adding layers, and I think that too. Anything that has a layer that looks like it's layered, I'm in.
Yeah, like the textured treasure stuff with Dawn to Dusk and the different layering.
Which I haven't touched.
That's fun. I haven't in a long time either.
I haven't either. I have, I think I have two. Let's see. I can see it from where I'm at. I have the first two done, the third one outlined, and that's as far as I've gotten.
Yeah, I was just looking at mine. It's downstairs. It's framed up and in the closet, and I looked at it and it's like, oh yeah, there's a nice needlepoint piece that I could pull out. And I'm like, no, that definitely can't come out at Christmas.
My two needlepoints, the Dawn to Dusk and Royal Garden, are propped up leaning against the wall behind my sewing machine. So I look right at them every day. And I'm like, oh, they're pretty. There they are.
So Jennifer, how about you? How do you pick what you want to do? What kinds of things are you looking for in a design?
It depends on if I like some things. You look at it and you're like, oh, I love that. And you just, something, whatever it is, because I like a lot of different stuff. Sometimes I want something on the wall and I want it to look specifically a certain way. So I look for something that looks like that. Like those, the roses I'm doing from the Veronique Engineer.
Those are beautiful.
Yeah, those are so pretty. And, I had bought that one, not Hade. What's we had it the other night.
Yeah, someone sent it to us.
The full coverage piece that was the roses. I had got that and I'm like, oh, that could be cool there. But then I saw the roses from this other designer and I'm like, those are the ones. That one, forget it. Doing these instead. So it'll be, if I want something somewhere, because I have a lot of cross stitch up in my house. A lot of it's stuff from back in the 90s,
Yeah.
And it's like some of it's in the kitchen and it's framed up and it's just really cute, like a little basket and it's still, I don't want to replace it. I still like it. I still think it goes in my kitchen. And I stitched it 20 some years ago, but whatever. It's staying,
Right.
But and then Paula Vaughn is just gorgeous. I love Paula Vaughn. I've done a lot of Paula Vaughn. I'm still working through my quilts of the seasons, the quilt for every month. So it depends. I like lots of different things. Just whatever strikes your fancy. Me. Yeah, pretty much.
So how are you finding new things? Because you don't have a shop near you either, do you?
No, I do. I this little Needleworks, but they are kind of transition. They do get some new cross stitch in, and they have a ton of like really old cross stitch charts that you can search through. But I think they're not bringing in a lot of new stuff. I think they're trying to concentrate on needlepoint and painted canvas. So, but they have threads galore, so I can go there to get all the threads and stuff. Right. And I found a couple new cross stitch. She'll get in like one or two new things, and I'm like, ooh, I like that one, and I grab it. But I just search online. A lot of times I'll go to 123 Stitch because they have a lot of stuff, and you can search by topic. Right. You can search by designer, you can search by topic. They have a really good search engine going on.
Right.
And I like it. And it doesn't necessarily mean I buy from them, but sometimes it'll give me somewhere to go from. It's like, oh, I like that designer and they have something close, but 123 Stitch isn't showing it in their thing, but that just means they don't have it in stock.
Right.
Usually. So you can type the designer or whatever into the internet search engine and then maybe find their webpage and find what else they have. Or I just search in Google, like, roses cross stitch, and you hit the image button and see what comes up.
So I do that too. I'm on 123 Stitch's email list. So they send out an email, with their new stuff. Also, Stony Creek has an email list, and they have new things. They'll get 30 or 40 new things every time I get the newsletter, which I think is weekly. And Hoffman also has an email. You can't buy from them, but you can. Right. What I do is if I see something I like there, then I go to 123 Stitch or Stony Creek, for the pattern.
Right. See, and I didn't know Hoffman had a newsletter. That's a bad thing to know.
I mean, it's a weekly thing, and I discovered that, they'll show like maybe 8 or 10 different little pictures. But if you click on a picture, it'll take you to their website, and then they might have a couple of pages. Their newsletter doesn't show everything that's new for the week.
Okay.
And
so you have
and then
to
you can
click.
just click through. Yeah, you have to click on the one of the little pictures, and then it'll take you to their website.
All right. So Cindy, what are you doing for a local needlework store? Because there's nothing. I'm trying to think what's around you anymore.
Well, the store in Cedar Rapids closed before the pandemic, so they've been gone for a long time. We have a store in Waverly, which is about an hour and a half away. That's about it, really.
Yeah. So you do most of your shopping then, again, like I do, online.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like, Jennifer, you do your chart shopping online. And that's, it's kind of sad that that there's so few brick and mortar anymore that you can physically go in. Because there is something about going into a needlework store and flipping through the patterns or looking at the models that are on the wall. I think it is inspiring.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I have that Needleworkers Delight in New Jersey, but it's the getting there part. It's a problem for me. The driving, the traffic, and the crazy people on the highway out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, Stitchville is about 4.5 hours away from me. We've been known to drive up to the Twin Cities for a day to go to Stitchville. There's some nice stores in some of the outer suburbs of Chicago. Those are 3.5 hours away for me, most of them.
Right.
St. Louis is about 6 hours. That's not usually a day trip. That's an overnight trip. And we haven't been down there for a while. And I think the shops that we've found there in the past have been mostly needlepoint shops.
Yeah, they've
which
got
is fine.
two. So in Colorado, they've got the stitching shop in Denver for when I go out to see my parents. But then Colorado Cross Stitcher, what's her name? She opened a stitching shop, I think, alongside with her knitting shop in Fort Collins.
Right, I
didn't
saw
know
that.
Yeah, I've seen, because I follow her on Instagram and stuff.
So have you ever been in Dimensions in Denver?
No, they have a Dimensions store in Denver?
Pretty sure. It's not Dimensions Needle. It's not the kit Dimensions.
Oh. No, I've only
pretty
been
sure
to
it's
the
called
stitching
Dimensions.
Store. I didn't know there was another one. Is it still open?
I'm pretty sure it is. I think I've seen it mentioned in a post on Facebook or someplace not too long ago. It's been there for a long, long time.
Interesting. Do you know where about?
I want to say it's in the southern part of the city. I don't know which suburb off the top of my head.
Yeah, because Denver's like Dallas. You got to know the suburbs.
Right. But you should be able to find it, Google it.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
There used to be quite a few stores in Denver.
Yeah,
but it's like every place else.
Yeah, Ruth Stitchery in Colorado Springs, they're like 5 minutes from my parents. They used to carry a lot of cross stitch. They still have some fabric and a few charts. Like that's where the first place I've seen like some Victoria Sampler stuff. But they're starting to kind of phase it out the past few years. Now I don't know if they're bringing it back a little because cross stitch is taking off more, but they're it's a quilt store,
Oh yeah.
But they have a lot of threads. They have all of the weeks and the what's the other one?
Colorworks. Crescent
the
Colorworks.
sampler threads.
Yeah, sampler thread. Those ones.
Yeah.
They have the fancy floss.
That reminds me, Beth. I understand there's a quilt store down in Muscatine that has some cross stitch and needlework.
Little Red Hen. I've actually told my husband I need to make a road trip out there. I have like a gift certificate for that place. I said, I need to go there because I have to use my gift certificate. And it kind of just, gives me that look like, okay, what am I going to do while you peruse this shop for 2 hours? I think he'll find something to do. I think there's a hardware store that he wanted to go visit. So I'm like, okay, you drop me off. You go to the hardware store.
Yeah.
Come pick me up in 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. I promise I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw somebody post recently that they were bringing in more cross stitch.
Yes, they are.
Oh.
The owner used to be a member of our local guild, and someone went and talked to her recently, and she is bringing in more cross stitch. She does have a lot of wool applique, which I also like to do. There's something about the tactileness of wool applique that I like. And you get to do all the fun stitches on it. So how can you go wrong?
Yeah, and you just, everything looks good. You just do, and if it's still not enough, you just add more.
That's right. That's right. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, but I miss having a local needlework store, but I think it's just the way things are going. And I know when I go online, I like to support some that are brick and mortar,
I do too.
Because then I can, hopefully eventually I can take a road trip and go physically visit them. It's just a nice feeling to go into a store. Soon.
So are you thinking, Beth, about going to the EGA region meeting next year in Minneapolis?
I hadn't really given it a whole lot of thought. I can't even remember what the dates are. But that would be fun to do. I'm sure someone from our guild is going.
I think it's April, but I'm not positive about that. I might be mixing that up with the Encore, A&G Encore in St. Louis.
Right.
But I think it's in the spring, early part of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And the hotel is close to Stitchville.
Oh, now that makes it very tempting. See, I used to have one sibling that still lives up in the Twin Cities, but he's in Minneapolis by the lake. And he doesn't have any room in his little house for me to come and crash at his place. I guess I could boot one of my nieces out of her bed, but I think that'd be a little rude.
Yeah.
But that is so, and they're offering a lot of nice classes at that region.
They are.
And then you get to go to Stitchville. So I think that does sound like a good road trip. I'm going to have to see. We're having a guild meeting in 2 weeks. See if anyone is planning on attending. I know we have a region rep who will be going. But tag along for that one. Oh, that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've looked at the classes several times. It's hard to choose.
Yes. And I don't have them in front of me, so it's like, oh. But they were nice. They had a lot of national teachers coming.
Kathy Andrews is doing a couple of projects.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie.
And the projects. Yeah, she would be fun to take a class from. Yeah, it'd be nice. That would be nice.
And there's somebody that's doing some kumihimo beading.
Oh, okay.
I've dabbled in that a little bit, but I kind of think I'd like to learn some more about it. I don't think I've done anything with beads on it.
I've done that once. Our local beading shop, before it closed, had a kumihimo beading class where we did a bracelet.
Mm-hmm.
And kumihimo braiding, that's a lot of fun. Have you ever tried that, Jennifer?
I've done at one of the Stitches events out here, I took I was knitting, and it was, you made a bracelet though with adding the beads. So it looked, you didn't even know there was knitting in there. It was just all the beads.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that, but I haven't done a lot of like that, putting it together beading type thing. No.
Well, kumihimo is on a circle loom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it reminds me a little bit of macrame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a way to braid.
Oh.
And it
I've
creates a
seen
round
that.
braid.
Right, like a tube.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I
And
might have seen something like that, but no,
and oh,
I haven't done it.
you can get some really, really nice braids made, like even for finishing. I know
Mm-hmm.
I did one to use for finishing an object, that I wanted a specific look, and we did it one time for our guild project, where we had the Kumihimo looms, and it just gives a totally different look, and it's kind of relaxing to
Yeah.
just to sit there and do this braiding thing.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Something to look into.
Right. So
Something
planning
new.
for 2022.
Right. Do you have plans for 2022? Is there anything you're going to start, a class, or Cindy?
No. I'm working on things to enter in the state fair.
Oh.
We were really disappointed in the number of entries at the needlework entries at the fair. They were really down this year. So, some of it's COVID, I'm sure, but they've been diminishing year after year after year. And so I just decided I was going to step up my game and try to finish several things so that I could have several entries. So that's really what I'm going to be working on is focusing on looking at the classes, and if I've got something that's already started that I can finish for a particular class, that's what I'll do. I'll pick those things out.
Right. I should do that too. This year I was going to, but then my cat had to have surgery and all this stuff was happening all at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I wasn't prepared in advance because we didn't know if it was going to be happening or not. And I just didn't prepare. I should think more on that this year and really focus on, okay, what do you want to put in? Get it done, have it ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I should do that too. It's a good idea.
And I'm going to be president of my local guild, and I think our guild has stopped putting as many things in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what I'm going to do is encourage people to put projects in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we do that too with our, actually, I think most of our ANG members did enter. We have a few that, just aren't interested in doing that. But it's a way to display your needlework and to see what other people are doing. And, yes, it is judged, but, at least the Iowa State Fair usually isn't a professional judge, so you kind of take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ours gives lots of first place ribbons,
Mm-hmm.
Like if you reach a certain score point, I guess you get a first place. So it's not like only 3 people get something. There's lots and lots of ribbons. And I think too is I'm like, I should I don't need it to be perfect to put it in. Just show it. You want people to see stuff. Who cares if you get a ribbon or not?
Right.
Show it so people can see it and hopefully be inspired to do it and keep it going.
Right. Standing around watching people all the years that I've been entering at the fair, so many times it's like going into a store that has a lot of models. Mm-hmm. You see something and it's, oh my gosh, I didn't know about that. How can I learn how to do that?
Right.
Or, so, I don't know about your chapter, Beth, but our ANG chapter is so small that, we really don't have a show as such for people to see what we're doing. The Cedar Rapids Embroiderers Guild does a show every other year. But there's very few ways for us to display what we're doing to the general public. Usually it's just our families and friends that see what they're doing. And, sometimes we're lucky if they Instagram. Right. Right. Yeah.
And that's our reason. We're going to be doing a show. My local guild, the Mississippi Valley chapter of EGA, is going to be doing a big show next year.
Oh, good.
So when we do that, hopefully that will help, because we
Mhm.
do have a fairly large chapter, and we have people doing a diverse kind of needlework. It's not just one type. So
Right.
I think that's interesting. But again, if we're not showing it to the public, who knows? How do they know that
Right.
there's something else out there? Yeah, they can look
Yeah.
on Instagram, but you generally, or Facebook, any sort of social media, but it generally tends to focus on one area, and you find your feed leaning either
Yeah.
like just to cross stitch, or
Mhm.
it'll lean just to needlepoint.
Right.
And you'll miss something like stump work, because that's just something that's odd, or some sort of surface embroidery or crewel work that some of that is just gorgeous. And unless you keep that going in your feed, you don't see the new stuff coming out on
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm a dabbler in many things, so I want to see it
Mhm.
all.
Plus,
Yep.
you're bringing the local people in, so it's a good way to get new members, because people don't know that there's a local group that's into that.
And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get more members in. So
Mhm.
and interest younger members to show
Right.
that we have a wealth of knowledge. We can teach you so many interesting things that maybe you don't know about, or you're afraid to try. My group is especially friendly and very willing to teach
Mhm.
people things that they don't know how to do.
The Embroiderers Guild is where I learned to do all the different techniques. I could do surface embroidery and cross stitch before that, but I hadn't tried anything else. I didn't really know what else was out there.
Right. And how do you know unless you're exposed to it?
Yeah,
Right.
and go and see it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
like I didn't know about all the stitching on smaller than 36 count or 18 count. Ada was the smallest I'd ever gone. I'd never seen 40 count, 45, all this small stuff, or over one, until I went
Right.
to the Celebrations of Needlework a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Mhm.
Right.
I was lit on fire. I was
Yeah.
like, oh wow.
And again, that's one of the things that not having a local needlework shop, you just don't know about that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first year, my eyes were I was just going crazy. What is that? What is that? What is that?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we didn't get all our topics in, but Gary
There's
just
so
pinged
many.
me a note that we were at 50 minutes or something. So
Yes.
Yeah,
Good.
so time to wrap it up, I guess.
Yep,
yeah, I
talked about
guess
lots
so.
of good stuff though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. This was fun.
For
it
sure.
was. Maybe next time we could talk Gary into joining us, but
Absolutely. The
maybe
more
he's
the
afraid of.
merrier.
Right? Do you think he's afraid of the three of us together?
Oh. Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. All right. Well, we better call it. So,
All right,
Okay.
sounds good.
all right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.